Leroy's Hermit stance has really good offensive capabilities, it has strong mix-up potential and has some decent defensive utility as well. But this stance is not as oppressive as many of the other stances in the game, and because of this fact I feel as though many Leroy players find it difficult to fully utilize his Hermit stance. And so in this video we are going to talk about everything you need to know about Leroy's Hermit stance, the properties of the stance, and just how to fully utilize all of the moves that he gets from the stance. So without further ado, let's jump right into it. So first, let's talk about the actual properties of the stance itself. So you can go into Hermit by pressing 3+4. You can also cancel out of Hermit by pressing 3+4. You cannot move whilst in this stance. Outside of built-in side steps, you can press up to sidestep up and down to sidestep down. You cannot break throws whilst in this stance as well. I think this is something that Leroy players don't know. Throw is a very good counter to Leroy's Hermit stance because it acts as a parry, and so you can't break throws out of this stance as well, which sucks, I know, but it is what it is. He has an auto low parry from this stance as well. It gives you a guaranteed 4-1+2 or guaranteed Hermit 1+2 if you want to go into hit. So as you can see, staying true to Wing Chun, Hermit stance is a stationary stance and you have very limited movement options out of this stance. So you are very vulnerable whilst in this stance. The idea is to go into Hermit and throw out a mix-up almost immediately. You don't want to just stand there, right, in Hermit stance because you are very vulnerable. You cannot block in a stance outside of very few defensive options. So every time you are in Hermit stance, you want to get off a mix-up real quick or throw out moves real quick and just back away and go back to neutral. These are the properties of Hermit stance in general, not too complicated, should be as easy as cake to grasp. Okay, so now let's get into some of Leroy's moves whilst in Hermit and how best to utilize them, starting with his Hermit 2. So his Hermit 2 is a 12 frame jab, which is -6 on block and +5 on hit. It has a full string Hermit 2-3, which is natural on hit, but both strings are high, so it's a high, it can be ducked. Now this move is very underrated. You don't really see this move used all that much outside of combos, honestly, and I feel it's quite underrated. Firstly, the second hit can be delayed as well, and it gives a hard knockdown on counter hit, giving you some really strong Oki. Basically gives you the same Okizeme as his counter or his perfect parry, his perfect back 2 parry. So you can get a guaranteed down back 2 ground pound or back 3+4. Or you can do some really crazy Oki with his Hermit 3+4, his Hermit forward 4, so it's really good. And the fact that you can delay this just creates some really good mix-up situations. Now the reason why I say this move is very underrated is because, like I said, it's a 12 frame jab, so most of the times when you go into Hermit stance, you usually go after a punish, right? 1, 2, 4 is only +3 on hit. I'll get into this later in the video, but because it's only +3 on hit, you don't really have that many options to use if you want to continue your pressure or take advantage of that +3. You basically have two options, which is Hermit 4, which is technically an unsafe mid. I'll get into that later, and Hermit 2 as well. So these are like your best two options that you have if you want to continue your pressure after a 1, 2, 4 punish. The fact that you can delay this opens up some really good mix-up games, or really good mind games. You can do like, whilst in Hermit, you go for like Hermit 2, and the opponent thinks you go for the full string, they'll start ducking or twitch ducking, right? So you can go like Hermit 2 into back 1, Hermit 2 into back 1+2, Hermit 2 into his 10 frame counter hit confirmable string, right? Hermit 2 into go low. Because of the fact that they fear the second string coming out, they tend to duck a lot or just try not to punish you or mash buttons after Hermit 2. It's a very underrated move, guys. Please utilize it once in a while. Again, it's a safe jab. It's a very good way to just check your opponent. I know the frame data isn't really that good at +6 on block, but again, it's one of his fastest moves from Hermit, and it's just a really good check in general. Hermit forward 1 is a 14 frame high that's 0 on block and +15 on hit, which is a lot. Now I'm not going to lie, you won't really find yourself using this move all that much. You do have better options in this stance, but what makes this move good firstly is the frame data on hit, right? +15 is insane. Like +15, sheesh, that's really strong. But it actually has very good tracking as well. It's technically a homing move, and sidestep duck is a very good counter to Leroy's Hermit stance because Leroy's only homing move from Hermit is back 4, which is a low, 20 frame low. It's good, but it's easily countered because sidestep duck beats a lot of Leroy's options. The thing about Hermit forward 1 is because of its speed, speed. It comes out at 14 frames fast. It's 6 frames faster than his Hermit B4, which is used for tracking. Because of this, it really messes up the opponent's timing on that sidestep duck. If they delay by just a bit, they get clipped by that forward one, because Hermit forward one is technically a homing move. It has very, very good tracking. Honestly, they should just make this a homing move at the end of the day. So it's really good for that fact, just to mess up the timing of the sidestep duck that your opponent has as a counter to your Hermit stance. I think a lot of players sleep on this move. I know it was great in Tekken 7, not as good as it was, but it still has its uses. You land this on hit, oh my goodness, you can just go crazy with the plus frames. You can get right in with the forward 4, you can get right in with the up forward 3, forward 3 as well, right, dash up back 3. Like plus 15 is a lot, so it's really good if you land it on hit. And on block as well, it's 0, so you can move afterwards, you can throw out parries. Like, it's a very versatile move, does not do much, that I will agree, but it's very good mostly for tracking. Next is Hermit 1+2, and this is the main reason as to why you won't really use Hermit forward 1 as much, because this is just a way better version. It also comes out at 14 frames, and it's a safe, hit confirmable mid which can take you into hit. It's only +2 on block. At least the first part of the string is +2. The fourth string is launch punishable on block. But honestly, you should not find yourself getting launched for this move because it's very easy to hit confirm. I advise putting the CPU on random block, then just practicing your Hermit 1+2. If it lands on hit, finish your string, right? If they block, just back out. Being +2 on block, again, you can move afterwards, you can do some stuff, right? Throw out a shotgun, throw out a back one, move around, bait out their stuff they throw out after your Hermit 1+2. Like, you can do a lot. It's very, very flexible. But remember, it can be beaten by a sidestep duck depending on how plus you are when you go into Hermit stance. For example, down back 3. So down back 3 is +5 on hit. So Hermit 1+2 is a go-to option. It's very, very strong. But the problem is how this works is at max range, it can be easily stepped. In a situation where this won't work, you can throw out a Hermit forward 1 to catch them stepping. But at close range after down back 3, the Hermit 1+2 will actually catch them. So again, it's all about the reads. How often is your opponent stepping after certain things that take you into Hermit stance? Now for this move, any move that takes you into Hermit stance at +5 and above, just go for Hermit 1+2. It's very, very strong. Remember, it comes out at 14 frames, right? And the most common way to go into Hermit stance, as we talked about earlier, is Hermit 1-4, which is this 10 frame punish. The only problem is it's +3 on hit. So +3 into Hermit stance, 1+2 will not work because an opponent can jab you afterwards. So as good as it is, you have to know when to use it and not just use it all the time. I know it's a very strong mid, but like in some situations it's just not worth using. So every move that takes you into Hermit stance at +5 and above, you can go for Hermit 1+2 afterwards. So Hermit back 3 on block, forward 4 on hit, right? Down 3, 2, down back 3. All these are very good options that you can use if you want to go for the Hermit 1+2 afterwards. This is very strong, especially at the wall, because again, it does wall splat. The best thing about this mid, like I said, is you can hit confirm it, guys. Like, it's so strong. It is so strong. But Leroy mains get too carried away with this move. Top players can sidestep it when they know, like, they know when to sidestep it. The most common flowchart with Leroy is down back 3 into Hermit 1+2. So depending on the range, guys, you want to be very careful when you go for Hermit 1+2. Mix it up with Hermit forward 1 and not just spam Hermit 1+2 all the time. But overall, one of Leroy's best mids, probably like top 3, maybe even top 5, even in Hermit stance, his best mid for sure. His Hermit back 4 is a huge 20 frame mid that's +4 on block and +7 on hit. This mid also launches on counter hit. I want you guys to think of this mid as a counter hit fisher and nothing else. Like, despite being +4 on block, it has some massive pushback, so you can't really take advantage of those plus frames. Like, the best follow-ups you have after back 1 or Hermit back 1 are down forward 1 and down forward 4. And both of these have very short range, so a simple back dash from the opponent can beat both of these options. It's only useful at the wall if you want to take advantage of those plus frames, so it's mostly used as a counter hit fisher. And not only that, the problem with back 1, like I said, it's very, very slow. It's 20 frames, so in no situation will you find yourself in Hermit stance throwing out back 1 for free. In no situation. His biggest moves that put him into Hermit stance at massive plus frames are Hermit back 3 on block, which is +9, and forward 4 on hit, which is +9 as well. So both of these at +9 into Hermit back 1 are not frame traps, because an opponent can jab and interrupt you if you go for a Hermit back 1 follow up afterwards. So it's not really good for frame traps. It's mostly used as a counter hit feature. I'm sure you don't really see that many Leroy players landing this move on counter hit, because it's not that easy to land actually. I think the most effective way to use Hermit back 1 is manually, right? You manually go into Hermit and throw out a back 1. I will talk about manual Hermit pressure later in the video, so stay tuned for that section. It really is a very good chunky mid, but very difficult to implement in my opinion. The best move, we talked about Hermit 1+2, it's very good in terms of frame traps. The opponents won't really mash patterns a lot against you in Hermit, because most of the times on your Hermit stance you are already plus, so it's not really advised to mash against Leroy when he is in Hermit stance at plus frames. So that's the reason why you won't really find yourself finding big counter hit mids with Hermit back 1. But you can still use it in that sense. Let's say like a down back 3 into Hermit back 1. It does have some really good tracking at max range, and your opponent has been conditioned to not press buttons really after going into Hermit stance, so you can go for Hermit back 1, which also does some pretty good chip damage as well. But mostly, like I said, we'll mostly use this manually, and I'll talk about that later in the video. But overall, a very good chunky plus frame move that launches on counter hit, and I mean, you can't do much wrong throwing it out once in a while here. But remember, you first must condition your opponent to not press buttons when you go into Hermit stance by mostly using Hermit stance 1+2. Okay, so now let's talk about Leroy's Hermit stance 4. Now the 4th string is Hermit stance 4 1+2. The whole string is natural on hit, but it is -14 on block, so you have to be very careful when using this string. But what we want from this string is a Hermit 4 on its own. So Hermit 4 is -7 on block. It's the only move that Leroy has from Hermit stance that keeps him in Hermit stance after using. Every single move that Leroy has from Hermit stance takes him out of the stance, but Hermit stance 4 keeps him in stance, which is very good. So if you want to continue pressure in Hermit stance, then Hermit 4 is that option for you. It's also his fastest option from Hermit stance, coming out at 11 frames, and it's a mid, so it's very strong. However, you won't just get it for free, so technically it's unsafe at -10. However, firstly, we talked about the string. He has the full string Hermit 4 into 1+2, so already you have the mix up on whether you're going to finish the whole string or just do Hermit 4 on its own. Not just that, Leroy also has Hermit 1, which I think is really good to talk about in the same section as Hermit 4. So Hermit 1 is a -10 mid, comes out very slow, and it's 0 on hit and -10 on block. It's also a counter hit launcher. But the best part about this move is that it is a punch parry as well. Not just a punch parry, it's just a parry in general. So now if you do Hermit 4 on block into Hermit 1, if the opponent tries to jab you after this, just press any other mids, you can parry them afterwards. So now you have a mix up between Hermit 4 on its own, Hermit 4 1+2, you finishing the whole string, or Hermit 4 into Hermit 1 to parry their counterplay after your Hermit 4. So this is why I say it is the best option you have to stay in Hermit stance, but it is not free. It does come with some really mix-up potential, right? So it all depends on the reads again. Whether you sometimes it's just about guessing. Is your opponent going to mash after you press Hermit 4? Is your opponent going to try to sidestep? Is your opponent trying to respect you after Hermit 4? It's all about reads and mix-ups. So the Hermit 1 parry is a very good option, like I said, but it can be baited, it can be stepped afterwards. So again, there's risk and reward to use it Hermit 4. But this is strong because again, you want to stay in Hermit stance and force your opponent to duck, because Leroy does have some really big mids whilst in Hermit stance. Hermit stance 4 is good in a sense that it gives your opponent mental frames, right, to not press buttons after Hermit 4. So going back to Leroy's 10 frame punisher again, 1 2 4, I spoke about how it's only +3 on hit, so you don't really have that many options to take advantage of those plus frames. The best option we spoke about was Hermit 1, which comes out, so Hermit 2, which comes out at 12 frames, and Hermit 4 is your other option. Remember, 11 frames fast. So if you land a 10 frame punish and you want to take advantage of those plus frames, then Hermit 4 is going to be that option for you. It does have some risk to it, but honestly it's not that bad of a move because you do have some options to cover up its weaknesses. So again guys, with this move, it's all about the parries, it's all about the reads, and all about the mental frames. You want to do things based on what your opponent does after you throw out Hermit 4. Try to study them, right? Throw out a Hermit 4 and see how they react afterwards. most people try to punish you. Are they trying to punish you? Okay, Hermit parry. They're close to the wall. They're trying to mash after Hermit 4, finish the whole string. Hermit 4, 1+2, get a whole splat into full damage combo. That's the idea behind Hermit 4. The only move, again, that keeps you in Hermit stance. You want to continue your Hermit pressure, use Hermit 4 at 4, but again, it does come with those mind games. Now let's get into some lows, starting with the Hermit stance back 4, which honestly is like the perfect low. This low comes out at 20 frames, does 17 damage, is +4 on hit and -13 on block. It also leaves the opponent crouching at -4, so which is really good. +4, opponent crouching, that's really strong. And this is the main reason as to why opponents are going to duck against you when you are in Hermit stance, because remember, it also is a homing move. It's his homing move from Hermit stance, so that sidestep duck is because of this particular low, and it's very effective again against Leroy. So you have to be very smart to mess up your timing when using Hermit stance back 4. So now there's not really much about this low. Honestly, you're in Hermit stance, just throw it out. That's basically the idea of how you use this low. It's also a counter hit launcher, by the way. I forgot to mention that. So here, the perfect low, to be honest with you. It makes sense as to why it's locked behind a stance. Going back to 1-4, his 1-4 punish, we talked about how he doesn't really have that many plus frames out of 1-4, and people tend to jab him a lot after that particular punish. So back 4 is a very good option after 1-4 because again it crashes the highs. So they try to jab after 1-4, back 4 goes right under the jab. It's a very strong option as well. So it's a high crash, it's a counter hit launcher, it's a homing move. Like, what can't this low do, guys? Like, it's really strong, really effective. One of the best lows in the game in general, if you take away the fact that it comes from a stance. Using Hermit stance manually is also going to be very good because of this particular low. Again, I'll talk about that later in the video, but manual Hermit stance into back 4 is really good because this low has so much range, covers so much space, and again, it tracks both sides. So it's an amazing low. In terms of frame traps or follow-ups after Hermit back 4, of course, down forward 1 string pressure is very good. Down forward 1 coming out at 13 frames, of course, means it's a frame trap. They can't press buttons after getting hit by Hermit back 4. You also have 1+2, 1+2. This is only if they get up with a mid, right? Or something that doesn't go under jabs, because 1+2, 1+2 is a high. So Hermit back 4 into 1+2, 1+2 is a very good frame trap, and Hermit back 4 into down forward 4-3 as well. So honestly, a very strong low. Like, use this low as much as you can. Honestly, it's very strong, and it does, like, it's honestly, I don't know what else to say about this low, but it's very strong. You are in Hermit stance, use this low. And then we have Hermit 3-4, which is another of Leroy's lows, comes out at 16 frames, so it's faster than his back 4, does more damage as well, 24 damage, and is a low mid, so this catches a lot of opponents off guard. However, this low is launch punishable on block at -15, so you have to be very careful when using this low. Yes, it does more damage, but it is launch punishable. But the good thing about this low is you don't really have to commit to the whole string. You can just do the first hit on its own and stay at only -13 on block. So you are not committed, or you're not forced to do the whole string, so which can be really good for some mind games. So you can just do like Hermit 3 on its own, and it's only -2 on hit. Sometimes the opponent won't even press buttons because they expect you to do the whole thing. Like, even if they block it, they still won't press buttons because they have to wait for you to do the whole thing for it to be launch punishable. So you can do some really cool mind games from this. You can do like Hermit 3 into back 1, Hermit 3 into back 1+2, Hermit 3 into his 10 frame counter hit confirmable string, 1+2, 1. This is only because like the opponent will be hesitant, so they can do like, okay, you do like Hermit down 3, but you don't do the whole string. The opponent will think to, okay, he's doing the whole string, so let me just wait and then launch it, but okay, he didn't do the whole string, so let me just jab check him. But by the time they realize it, you knew about it and you already had the back 1+2 planned. Boom, you get the counter hit. That's the idea behind like buffering just the first hit and staying a little bit safer. It's a very good low, has some pretty good tracking, tracks well to his left side, has bad tracking to his right side, but it's very good to alternate between Hermit back 4 and Hermit 3-4 just to throw off your opponent's timing. Sidestep duck doesn't really become a thing if they step in the right direction against this low. So again, it's another good counter to the sidestep duck that people do against Leroy whilst in Hermit stance. So it's a very good low. Again, the fact that it's 16 frames is also really good. So you can do like stuff like back 3 on block into Hermit 3-4, which becomes a frame trap. right? Forward 4 on hit is +9, so forward 4 into Hermit 3-4 becomes a frame trap. Like having a low follow-up as a frame trap is really, really good. So people don't understand what I mean by frame trap. It's basically a setup using plus frames to your advantage. You put your opponent in a situation where they can't really press buttons after certain moves, right? So that's the idea. So 3-4, again, one of Leroy's best lows whilst in Hermit stance. I also forgot to mention that it's only +1 on hit. So whilst you get more damage than back 4, you get less plus frames on hit. You want more frames, you use back 4. You want more damage, you use Hermit 3-4. However, it is launch punishable on block, and that's the trade-off. And finally, for his Hermit lows, we have his Hellsweep. This Hellsweep is pretty good. I think it's underrated. Most Leroys don't really use it, and it's understandable. It is launch punishable on block. Of course, it's a Hellsweep, -1 billion. It does 30 damage, it's pretty chunky, pretty good, and actually tracks both sides. Does not have as much range as back 4, and I think even Hermit 3-4, but it does have tracking both sides, which is very, very strong. So if you want to make your opponent stop sidestepping after like down back 3 at close range, Hellsweep is a very good option, but should not be spammed as much, honestly, because again, -1 billion on block, launch punishable. You do have that Hermit back 4, which gives you so much mileage. The best way or the best times you want to use a Hellsweep is one, when trying to make a comeback. Of course, 30 damage low is very big, so making a comeback, and when your opponent's back is against destructible walls or explosive walls, because Hellsweep 30 is basically a 30 damage launcher with opponent's back against an explosive wall, which is a lot of damage. So the Hellsweep in Hermit is kind of like a last hurrah. It's very situational. Don't spam it as much as I know you want to. You're better off using Hermit back 4. And honestly, also better off using Hermit 3-4, which does only 6 damage less than a Hellsweep with no knockdown, of course. Very, very situational. Be very careful when you use this move. And finally, we have his Hermit stance forward 4, which is basically just an orbital he has whilst in Hermit stance. This move is very slow, crushes lows, and of course is a natural launcher. But what makes it good is the fact that it's 0 on block, so you can technically move or still continue pressure afterwards. However, this move is very linear, very easily sidestepped, and again, very, very slow. You only want to use Hermit forward 4 when you realize your opponent is not sidestepping and they're just deciding to guess when you are in Hermit stance. Are they ducking or are they standing? That's basically when you want to use Hermit forward 4. Other than that, I don't really advise using this move like at all, because man, the tracking is horrible. You will get yourself killed. But you have the reads. You notice your opponent is trying to duck that Hellsweep, then basically you have a free 50-50 between the Hellsweep and the orbital. So in that sense, guys, again, hard reads. Make the reads, study your opponent's habits, and then use this move. Outside of that, not a good idea like at all. That's basically Hermit forward 4, just basically an orbital, right? So for this section, I want to talk about going into Hermit stance on block. Of course, it's easy to go into Hermit stance on hit. A lot of Leroy's moves take him into Hermit stance on hit. For example, like down 3-2, down back 3. All those moves are good on hit because they give you a bunch of frames and leave you in Hermit stance. However, if they are blocked, you get punished and you can't use your Hermit stance. But what if Leroy had some moves that took him safely into Hermit stance on block? Unfortunately, he does not have much, but he does have about 3 exceptions. So let's start with back 3 being the obvious, of course. Back 3, the big high homie move, leaves him at +9 in Hermit stance. This is OP, like it's very strong. However, it does come out very, very slow, and of course it is a high, it can be ducked. So again, there is some risk to this. You don't get Leroy Hermit stance for free on block. You have to actually use some mix-ups to it and get through some caveats, for example like back 3 being a high and being very slow. So of course this is the obvious one, big exception. +9 on block is a lot, right? And then we have forward 4. So forward 4 on block is actually safe. It leaves you in Hermit stance on block, but you can cancel it, right? Think of it like a -9 mid. Basically, you can't attack after this, you just have to block. But it kind of works in the same way as his Hermit stance 4. If you remember about Hermit stance 4, you can use the parry afterwards, and Hermit stance 4 also has an extension, Hermit stance 4 1+2. So forward 4 also has an extension, forward 4 1+2. And the follow-up is actually -14 as well, just like Hermit stance 4 1+2. You can also use his Hermit parry, so or Hermit 1 after forward 4 on block if they try to punish you or try to jab afterwards. So you do have the same mix-ups that you have with Hermit stance 4. It works in the same way. So if you want to go into Hermit stance on block using forward 4, you do have these mix-ups. The idea is to use forward 4. If it's blocked, just cancel out of Hermit stance, right? If you land it on hit, you are +9 on hit and in Hermit stance. But again, you don't have to cancel out of forward 4 out of Hermit stance every time you land forward 4 on block because of this particular mix-up. Sometimes the opponent will try to sidestep if they think you throw like a Hermit 1 or duck if you think you throw like a Hermit back 4. So sometimes they won't even press any buttons after you do forward 4. So this gives you a free entry into Hermit stance on block. So again, you have to earn going into Hermit stance with Leroy on block. The same applies to his down forward 4. Down forward 4 works the same way as forward 4. He has an extension down forward 4-3, which is safe at -9, and the second hit does counter hit. It knocks down, giving you a free follow-up of 40 +4 1 +2. So the mix-up here is he going to finish the whole string, or is he going to just down forward 4 on its own and go into Hermit stance? That's the idea again with down forward 4. Again, you have to earn going into Hermit stance with Leroy on block. On hit, yes, it's easy. He has a bunch of moves, but on block, you have to earn it. There's mind games and mix-ups and gimmicks surrounded by this. It's all about reads again and see how your opponent reacts after doing these particular moves. And lastly, manual Hermit pressure. I have touched upon this throughout the video, but sometimes it's good to just go for like manual entry into Hermit stance and throw out some moves. The two biggest moves that you should use, in my opinion, is Hermit back 1 and Hermit back 4. Hermit back 1 is a counter hit fisher, so it's good to have instant access to Hermit stance and throw out a back 1. You actually have more success rate landing this move on counter hit if you just do it manually, going into Hermit stance and throwing it out, than off of strings or like moves that take you into Hermit stance. So that's one aspect about manual back 1. Then you want to use manual back 4 because again it has very good range. It's a low that high crashes, and it's a counter hit launcher as well. So it's a mixer between Hermit back 1. Remember, Hermit back 1 can be stepped, but you have that Hermit back 4 to catch them stepping. That's the idea. You can throw out other moves like manual Hermit into Hellsweep, manual Hermit into Hermit 1 +2, but for me the most effective moves are these two, right? And they come out really quickly. Like the risk and reward is worth it in my opinion. That Hermit back 1 again is +4 as well, chunky mid, +7 on hit, so I think it's worth doing these two particular moves. But again, you can use other moves, but it comes at a huge risk. Even manual Hermit into 3-4 is pretty good, but why go through all that trouble just to access manual Hermit 3-4, which is launch punishable on block, when instead you can just do back 4, which has more range as well, right? So in my opinion, again, it all depends on you, the Leroy player. Most Leroy players play this character differently. They use Hermit stance differently. That's one aspect I love about Leroy. Hermit stance users are very different. You find a Leroy player doing completely different things in Hermit stance than what you would do. But in terms of manual Hermit pressure, this is what I suggest. Honestly, it's up to you. So there you have it, guys, a quick summarized guide on just how you must use Leroy's Hermit stance and what not to do. This video has been 30 minutes long. Honestly, I wanted it to be shorter, but it is what it is. If you enjoyed my content, please check out my other Leroy stuff. I am a Leroy main. I have done a full Leroy guide. Check that out as well. And of course, like, subscribe, and yeah, GG my boys. Thanks for watching and take care.